Well, here we go again. More attacks on anime. How they just want to push a narrative that anime is hate, that we shouldn't be watching it, that basically, just like YouTube, that basically it's radicalizing those who watch it. Whoever's there, they're radicalizing it. Oh, God. I mean, this is just amazing. It's amazing sometimes. I've heard several stories before. We're going to go through this, but before we really get deep into this, remember there are 4 words: subscribe, like, support, share. Very important on there. Please subscribe to this channel, whether you're here on YouTube, whether you're on DLive, or whether on BitChute. We do appreciate it. Like and share our videos. It's just as important. We want to move up in the ranks. We want more people. We want it to be more visible to people. We have to do our best. And by moving up on there, I thank the new subscribers. We had gotten a couple more last night. It's fantastic that you guys are clicking on it. We love it. Thank you very much. And finally, supporting the channel. I thank those who have donated to this channel. It helps us to move up, to basically get more equipment, to try to hire staff, because we want to build a bigger and better network. We want to bring you more shows. I mean, we have a lot that are on the drawing board. We have so many things we want to do, so many big productions that we want to do on here. But unfortunately, we don't have staff. There are shows that are on hold right now. I mean, right now, because of the financing, we want to remaster some of the episodes of the Rabbit T. Rabbit Show. Bring you a show that's been around for over 30 years, a great show. We used to work on it. We had fun. This belonged to the late Richard Concepcion. And we have now access to the entire library. It's sitting in a storage locker. And basically it's there, and right now there is somebody going through them, pulling them out, preparing them for digitalization. But unfortunately, to get them to be fully digitalized, and to have them sort of remastered, recolored, and stuff like that, it takes money. I mean, some of the episodes that we've done in the past, there've been some decent recoloring, recolor grading, and stuff like that. But stuff like this takes time. It takes money. And also, some of the stuff that we used to do on the show, we have to edit out because we can't use it today because of YouTube algorithms. And some of the copyrights have changed. We have to go through each one of them to make sure that the copyrights are up to date. That takes money. That takes time. And most people don't understand is that you could throw a camera up and be a YouTuber, have show, but when you want to start to expand out, it takes money. So if you could throw a couple bucks away, it's okay. Don't worry if you can't afford it. Subscribing, liking, and sharing are also just as important. We do appreciate this. We appreciate when you click on our episodes. When we look at when those counts go up, we love it. When the counts don't go up, we're wondering: are we getting shadow banned? Do people not like the content? We try to look at it in all directions and make sure that we're bringing you a good show, day to day, week to week. And like I said, we have other shows that we have on the drawing board. American Asylum. We're right now trying to schedule a special edition on it, hopefully for the July period, that we'll put up an episode, maybe sooner. We're just trying to talk to somebody, because a lot of the guests that we want to get, unfortunately, are out of town right now for the summer. We have to wait for them to come back, and that's why we scheduled it for September. Most people, they're away on vacation, and we're just waiting for them to come back. But we do have somebody scheduled for the special that we're working on. So getting back to this, we talked about anime earlier with the Ultraman TV series getting the second season. Netflix is just ramping up. and putting up anime left and right. We got Neon Genesis Evangelion coming in the next, what's today, the 19th? A couple days. I think it's another week. Yeah, it should be another week. And but there are those out there who just literally want to make comparisons between anime and basically, and I can't say the word, unfortunately, because YouTube algorithms, they look for this word every time and they think it's hate. The German World War II group. We'll say it that way. The German World War II group, I think that's about safer what you can say. But basically, you're seeing articles like this that came out of Polygon. This was basically yesterday. The fascist subtext of Attack on Titan can't go overlooked. If you're not familiar with Attack on Titan, it's a dystopian future where basically people are living inside a community behind walls. On the outside of the walls are these creatures called Titans. They're giants, and they're flesh-devouring monsters. Where they pick people up and they devour them. In fact, it was made into a live-action movie. You could find a live-action movie. It's in 2 parts. Not as good as the anime, but to see it be done on a big screen with live-action CG, it's decent. It's decent. It's pretty good. Especially the baby Titan. Oh man, that is just creepy. But in the last couple of months, I mean, we've been seeing articles like this come out constantly. I mean, we could flip back over to I think, when was this? Last year in October, Sci-Fi Wire put out this article, The Troubling Relationship Between Anime and Fascism. And you can see the picture that they posted up there, because they're giving a salute with the fist against their chest. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. And it's funny when you see these people that basically write these articles. They said, well, we've read it, we've seen the anime and stuff like that. I think they just skim through this. I mean, I know this particular person who wrote the Polygon, I guess, read a couple of the mangas, went through it, and started making comparisons. Is it Tom Spleeman? They're making comparisons to Germany, that time period. But this is a dystopian future. And basically, they try to say, well, you talk about this and that and the other thing. Anything can happen in that type of future. It's the same thing in our later stories. We were talking about Cyberpunk 2077, which, is getting as much as criticism also. And, they're saying it's very racist and stuff like that. And considering that Cyberpunk was created by a black man, and what they're talking about and stuff like that. And, that they're making the disparaging remarks that saying like, oh, you have characters like this that is just basically very racist and hateful and stuff like that. And you're seeing the same thing happen with this. But this, let me just say in first perspective, this is a story. It is a fictional story. This is not a Mein Kampf book, which is, these days you could find it on Amazon. You could find that book on there, and I hope I don't get flagged for that, for saying that book's name. But that book is available on there, but nobody bans that. Okay? But they go to this, which basically they want Japan to bend to the knee. And 1 or 2 people animes have done that already. But most of Japan, they don't like what's going on this side of the world. With all these people that just basically just saying that, if you say something that that disagrees with them, it's hateful, it's racist, it's, that German group. It's where were these people raised and taught in school? I mean, it is just ridiculous. Like I said, this is a dystopian area where there is no sign of the U.S. or Japan or Germany or something like this on there. Yeah, the author may have used similarities to those type of World War I, World War II, Vietnam, many different architectures, because sometimes you have to use them to create the world that you want to create on there. And sometimes you have to use those similarities because some of the basically subject matters can end up to be similar, and that is possible. There are many, many different storylines. Perfect example. Why, maybe I'm wrong. Man in the High Castle, which is on Amazon Prime, one of their top shows right now, which is basically a basically present day series about an alternate universe where Japan and Germany won the war, and the United States is split down the middle between Japan and Germany. So you have Germany controlling the German group controlling the East Coast, and I think Japan's controlling the West Coast. And you don't see the basically people like criticizing that as much as you get into the anime. And it's not only Attack on Titan. I mean, you've seen a while back that they have criticized Full Metal Alchemist, Mobile Suit Gundam, and a lot of their other series, Strike Witches. There is one, Tanya the Evil, I think it was called, on there. We talked about it before. You couldn't cosplay that at one of the animes. You couldn't come dressed as that. You could even come dressed as Hydra. I mean, I'm surprised they, haven't started running on Hydra yet. Because actually Hydra was built from a Germany group that we talked about, that basically they spawned from that, but yet basically they'll start to knock on everybody else in Japan for this. I mean, these are just stories. People write stories. You have to take these stories with a grain of salt sometimes, but these are not propaganda things, that used to radicalize or turn people into, I love, they throw the word alt-right in there, and it's just amazing that they're like, oh, this is turning people into alt-right, and there is no proof. And I'll say it again, facts and evidence. There is no proof that this radicalizes people, that YouTube radicalizes people. Just because you may see something, say for example on YouTube, that means you've been clicking on it. It doesn't mean that that they're throwing this at you. It's, that they're basically, when you start to play around with YouTube, and say you throw videos about, I'll give you an example, Doctor Who, and you start watching a lot of Doctor Who videos, the algorithm is going to throw Doctor Who videos out there. Does that make you a Doctor Who fan? No, you're just interested in some of the videos that happen on there. And the same thing with a lot of these. They're like, oh, just because these are military-based movies. Another one's like Prison School and stuff like that. That basically, that these are forms of radicalization, especially since it's from places like Japan or. Anime's been around a long time, since I was a kid. There's some stuff, okay, that there was depicted, how the Japanese sometimes depicted black people in there. They were very unusual, but, people never really complained about that. There were stories, there were animation, they were blown out, some cartoons were blown out of proportion how they portrayed other races. But also the stories were very good. Like I said before, I grew up with, there's a channel here in New York City. I think it's called now Telemundo. It used to be Channel 47. It was a Spanish network. Saturday nights, 8 p.m., they used to flip over to Nippon Television. And the first two hours, I think it is, two and a half hours, they used to run Japanese anime. One of the animes was about a kid in the Shaolin Temple. And it was very proper how he went around helping people. And he was part of a Shaolin temple. I forgot the name of it. The Ikusan, I think it was called. I have to look it up. It's been such a long time. But then you have many others, which another series called Galaxy Express 39, and you could push that toward a dystopian era where basically the rich were putting down the poor and stuff like that. But the basis of the story was about a boy growing up, learning life's lessons, and becoming a man. And when the series came to an end in the last movie I do, Galaxy Express, not to give the ending away really, but basically, he went off, went back home to Earth, after defeating the bad guys. But the person that he traveled with, this woman Maytel, basically she didn't go back with him, that she left him. And basically the narrator says that basically when we're children, that that we have Maytels in our life that basically we grow up with. It's like someone who basically nurture us, to whether it's a father, it's a mother, or it's a guardian that protects us and nurture us and teach us the ways of life. And basically they let us go when we're adults, to continue our lives without their basically without their intervention. And that was a great series. It was a very good series. And then you had stuff like, Battle of the Planets and, Speed Racer. It's so many series, so many different. And you had military movies. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't hit on the Red Ribbon Army in the original Dragon Ball series. If anything that would be similar to that German group would be the Red Ribbon Army. But the thing about it is the Red Ribbon Army was the villains. They were, you could elevate situations where you have a world where basically you have something of this nature that is taking over the world. And, there are people who fight for it, or people who on there fight back to become it. But they're stories. They're not there to, indoctrinate or anything of the nature. They're so, most of these articles, when you look at it, and I say this again, I believe this wholeheartedly. Most of these people haven't spent time with anime, or they haven't spent true in video games or any of the fandom culture, because they don't. When you read their articles, they try to convince the reader, and they throw it in. They try to convince them in the first paragraphs, because they know most people, when you read the articles, going back to the beginning of the articles, like the sci-fi wire one was the troubling relationship between anime and fascism, and the other one is the fascist subtext of Attack on Titan can't go overlooked. Most people will look at that and then pass that on to other people. I mean, this is like clickbait. And then when you look at it and you go down, they're like, well, it was okay. The twists and levels, in the storyline. When you read the storylines and you look at it and you're like, no, that's not what they're saying. And that's not what it is. I mean, this particular writer gives a lot away. He ruined, for anybody who reads the manga, he ruined the manga for a lot of people just to try to make his point across. And they're like, well, the anime and manga is dwindling. Manga is dwindling, but also comic books as well. But manga is trying to make a comeback. You have Viz Media that is trying to produce new manga here in the United States. And there are people who travel to Japan to buy manga. What I think is going to happen is we're going to divert back to the way it was when I was young. Anime was underground, so was manga. You had to go to Chinatown, basically, to find the stuff. Stuff was subtitled if it was a video. That's how I watched Ghost in the Shell, the series. I watched it all in subtitle. I got it from a DVD vendor. I have to admit to that, but hey, that was the only way you could watch this series at that time period. There were no major companies that were bringing it to the U.S. I mean, if it wasn't for shows like Toonami on Adult Swim, basically, you wouldn't get most of this stuff. I mean, that was one of the great, and it's still one of the great lines on Adult Swim and the Cartoon Network series, and I hope they don't take that away or pervert it, because you have a lot of great anime. Grew up in there watching Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Ronin Warriors, Yu Yu Hakusho. There was so many series in there, and everybody, we used to come home, right after school, turn on Toonami. Then of course they brought the Rising Sun and the Midnight Run. Then it went away. It went away for a while, and then as the internet grew, you saw people pushing, trying to get it back. And then you have sites like Toonami Aftermath, who basically has a site that shows homage to this programming, showing it with the original commercials and openings and the Tom openings and everything like that. And they've been expanding further, and they're nonprofit, and they want to put this out because this is what it was before. Maybe it's time that we go back to that. Maybe it's time that we start to push back and just go back underground again. Expand the Toonami. Maybe Toonami needs its own channel, because these people don't understand anime. They'll never understand why we like it. They tried to, put it down, and they try to make light that it has these values and stuff like that, and don't understand that these are stories, and we understand these stories. These are characters on there that we enjoy to see. There's some people that are struggling to find their own identity, like Eren is in Attack on Titan, that basically he's a human, half Titan. Why is he like that? And I'm not going to give you the answer to that. Because I'm not going to give any of that away here, unlike this Polygon article. And that's the same thing with a lot of these other stories. Some of it make it in a comedic way. I mean, there's some stuff that's on Fullmetal Alchemist. It's great, and it's in a comedic way, and you love it every time. The original series was so good. Gundam Wing was such a fantastic series. What was the other one? Code Geass, which you can watch now on Amazon. I believe Amazon Prime has that now, and I think Hulu has that too. Oh no, and I'm sorry, Netflix has it also. And it's such a great series, and that's another dystopian future where basically a monarchy has taken over the world, and each of the countries, like Japan, they're numbers. Each of the countries are numbers, where the monarchy has their monarch and the rich upper class and stuff like that. And there's one guy who gains powers that basically, he's able to manipulate people. And he's trying to fight a revolution because his family was part of the monarchy, but he was sort of like the bastard son in a way. These are stories that have always been written, whether it's Japanese, whether it's American, whether it's British, whether it's Korean, and you look at it, and people always try to criticize it. It's sort of like almost like a book burning. They don't like it, so they're going to burn it. They're going to just destroy it. They don't want you to see it. But, these are stories. They're afraid of stories, afraid of people telling things to you. And that's a shame that we have to go through this again. So maybe we have to go back underground. So comment below. Tell me what you think. Should we go back underground again and just basically start going back to the places where we went before? Were you one of those people that used to go to these stores that basically, this is where you got your manga, this is where you got your anime? It was all imported. Now we could look at it online, best we can. If it isn't taken down by one of the other sites on there. Yeah, it is sort of illegal, but I think Japan should push this further, because when you have companies like Funimations and a couple others that just literally edit to satisfy politics and not really truly get into that. And yeah, Funimations does that. They have been caught. A couple other sites have been caught. It's time that a lot of these Japanese companies come here directly. Viz is here. A couple others are here. They need to come across here. Toei, Toho. They need to come here directly, create their own sites here, or find someone that will work with them properly. Put out these subtitle units and maybe dub them correctly. Or, you know, we'll still take them subtitled. We'll read it subtitled. We don't mind. We've done it for years. And still people are doing it today. The next crop of generation of anime fans are doing it. And it's not, and it's just not to the point where people are saying it is a radical element. It's stories. So, like, once again, comment below. You'll find us on Minds and Gab.com, DLive, and BitChute. So we got one more tonight. And basically, Cyberpunk is back in the news again. If you didn't catch it on the first half here, talk about, you know, when you get anime that's basically being talked about, and then you got video games that are being slammed. Here we go. So subscribe, like, support, share. We'll see you on the next one.